Okay, let's just dive right in. If you've ever found yourself dreaming about traveling, but the whole idea just feels, well, huge, confusing, maybe even a little scary, this is for you. We are going to break down exactly how to start, even if you've never really left your own city. It's a really common feeling, isn't it? You see the photos on social media, you hear the stories, and it feels like there's this secret club of world travelers that everyone else is in. But here's the thing, every single one of them had a first trip. Everyone starts at zero. And today, we're going to figure out your starting point. So let's start by tackling the biggest hurdle right out of the gate, the fear itself. That feeling of intimidation is so normal, and honestly, it usually comes from just a few specific worries that a lot of us share. Do any of those sound familiar? Yeah. These are the exact questions that can stop a trip dead in its tracks. Your brain just starts spinning out all these worst-case scenarios, filling in all the unknowns with pure anxiety. It's totally exhausting, and it keeps you stuck right where you are. I really want you to let this sink in for a second. Feeling that way is completely 100% normal. See, the fear of travel almost never comes from actual, real danger. It comes from unfamiliarity. You're just thinking about doing something new, something you haven't done before, so of course your brain is going to be a little cautious. The trick is not letting that caution build a wall. And this is what's so interesting. It's how we solve this problem. You don't have to wake up one day and magically be this fearless, brave adventurer. That's not how it works. Instead, the real cure for that fear is information. It's preparation. It's getting clarity on the simple steps, which is exactly what we're going to do right now. Okay, so one of the biggest mental blocks for beginners is this really narrow idea of what travel is even supposed to look like. We've kind of been taught that it has to be this massive, expensive, international adventure. But it's time to completely change that definition. We get so stuck on the stuff on the left, right? We think travel has to mean flying overseas or staying in a fancy hotel or taking a whole month off. But the reality is, it's so much more accessible than that. A simple road trip to a city that's just a couple hours away, that's travel. A short flight to another state for a weekend, yep, that's travel too. We just need to broaden our definition to see all the amazing opportunities that are right there in front of us. And this is the main point right here. The value of a trip isn't measured in miles or how far you go. It's measured in new experiences. It's about stepping outside of your daily routine, even for just a little bit, and seeing something new. Your first trip doesn't have to be some epic saga. It just has to happen. All right, let's get practical. A lot of that anxiety we talked about comes from the logistics, the how do I actually do this part. So we're going to demystify the absolute basics. Think of this as your simple, no-stress toolkit for getting started. Booking a flight can feel like this huge, complicated thing, but when you actually break it down, it's just a simple little process. You hop on a search site like Google Flights to see your options, you compare the prices to find something that works for you, you book the ticket online, and then you get a confirmation email. That's pretty much it. It's just a checklist, not some impossible puzzle. And hey, the same exact idea applies to finding a place to stay. You can use a big site like Booking.com or Airbnb, but your real power comes from doing a tiny bit of research. Read what other people said in the reviews. Seriously, this is your secret weapon. Check the location on a map to make sure it's actually where you want to be. And look at all the pictures, not just the first one. This little checklist just takes so much of the guesswork and stress out of it. Now, what about the money? Let's make this incredibly simple. Start with just $10. That's it. If you open a separate savings account, call it a travel fund, and you just put $10 a week into it, something amazing happens. It's not about saving thousands overnight. It's about making the goal feel real. It shifts your whole mindset from, ugh, I can't afford this, to I'm actively planning for this. Okay, this next idea is probably the single most important piece of advice for any new traveler. Seriously, forget about the big trip for just a second. We're going to use this amazing little strategy to build your confidence super fast. A low-pressure, no-stakes travel rehearsal. So what is a practice run? Well, the idea is simple. You plan a really short trip, maybe just for one night, to a place that's only an hour or two away. The goal isn't to have the most mind-blowing vacation of your life. The goal is just to practice the mechanics of traveling in a situation where there's zero pressure. Because on this little practice run, you get to try out all the core travel skills. You'll actually practice packing a small bag, navigating from your home to your destination, checking into a hotel, sleeping in a new bed, and just figuring out how to get around a new town. You build a real confidence without the stress of a big, expensive trip hanging over your head.
And hey, speaking of packing, here's a little challenge for that practice run. Almost every single beginner brings way too much stuff. It's like a rule. So for your one-night trip, try to see how little you can get away with. A change of clothes, your toiletries, a phone charger, that's probably it. You'll learn what's truly essential by actually doing it. So now that we've covered the practical side of things, let's talk about mindset. Because how you think about travel is honestly just as important as how you plan it. This is all about embracing the journey, not trying to put on a perfect performance. I want you to give yourself permission, right now, to mess up. Because you will. I promise you will. You'll get on the wrong train, or you'll misread a map. It happens to everybody, even the most seasoned travelers. Those little mistakes don't mean you're bad at this, they just mean you're human. And honestly, those moments almost always end up becoming the best stories later on. And this is the absolute truth. Being a traveler isn't about some flawless execution. It's not a skill you're just born with. It's something you become simply by doing it, by showing up with all your imperfections and just giving it a try. And when you do show up, please remember this is your trip. There's all this pressure these days to be adventurous, like you have to go climb a mountain or something. But what if your perfect travel day is just sitting in a quiet cafe watching the world go by, or just walking through a museum? That is just as valid and just as wonderful. You get to define what a great trip looks like for you.
Here's the cool thing about confidence. It's not something you need before you travel, it's what you get from traveling. So yeah, your first trip, that little practice run, it might feel a bit awkward. That's fine. The second one, though, it'll feel easier. And by the third trip, that initial awkwardness starts turning into real, genuine excitement. You build it one step at a time.
So at the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. Travel really isn't about distance. It's an internal thing. It's about trying something new, learning how you handle it, and maybe seeing your own world and yourself just a little bit differently when you get back home.
You don't need a passport full of stamps to be a traveler. You don't need a huge budget or a month off from work. All you need is the clarity to make a simple plan, the permission to not be perfect, and the willingness to take that very first step, even if it's just to a town an hour away. Your story is ready to start whenever you are.